for some results.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It is about 8:35 in Denver, Colorado, in Mountain Time on the 16th of June, and we're having one of my summer session on, I called it Middle East and Israel in Film, which is a continuation of the course that I gave at the university, but it's basically just a movie discussion club. The film that I'd ask people to watch for today is Maktub, and I'm hoping that somebody wants to start our discussion in any way that you want.
I actually want to start with a question for you.
Okay.
It has all these people. They're clearly a Russian woman, you know, one of the women, but like, and the Chechnyan guy, you know, one of the enforcers. But like, can you explain this the different ethnicities or cultural background? It's just so interesting. But it's unclear to me because I'm such a vuz, you know, so I don't really know.
Vuz, that means Ashkenazi, people who speak Yiddish and say vuz. Yeah, so I think that the ethnicities are extremely important to this film. I'm not really sure what the Chuma and Steve ethnicity is supposed to be. These are two character actors. I spent too much time today and a little bit of yesterday trying to see something that my student Frank might know the answer to. Frank was with us last week and the week before. He's been pretty good about using VPNs and so on to see films that you cannot see if you're not in Israel. But I could not find their comedy hit. Apparently, I think it's called Partsufim Barosh, and it was like a 3-season comedy hit in Israel. And the characters are not the same, but the actors are. And they have a new film that's come out that's not available. It's on the film festival circuit. They have a new film called Forgiveness, Mechila, in which again, they have different characters, but the two guys are the same. They're the writers and some of the players of these bumbling gangster types and so on. And in that one, it's before Yom Kippur, and one of the characters is religious, and he needs to get mechila from one of the characters who's not. Having said that, the Dunyasha character clearly is Russian. The Chechen guy is clearly Chechen. They have the scene that looks like it's in a godforsaken part of Jerusalem, but set to be in Chechnya. Some of the characters seem to be Russian. We hear Russian being spoken occasionally. My Russian is not all that good, but the Dunyasha character clearly is speaking a little bit of Russian. And I think that the Chechen lady is speaking Russian as opposed to Chechen. I just don't know enough Russian to know that for sure. Lizzo, I think she's just Israeli. I don't know what else to make of the characters. Other than that, I think that this is in fact a motif in the film, having people who have these ethnic identities to be part of it. Jody, I wish I could tell you more.
They would be some sort of Mizrahi, don't you think? Especially Chuma. I mean, all the stuff about it's a sign and stuff like that. It's very much part of, I mean, you have Ashkenazim that do that, but stereotypically it's part of sort of spiritual outlook, this belief in these forces and so on. Maybe I'm stereotyping, but you know, it's either an Ashkenazi religious outlook or it's a Mizrahi outlook.
Well, they don't look they don't look like your typical Ashkenazi. And if the filmmakers wanted to symbolize that they were Ashkenazim, they would have done different things.
Right.
And, you know, it's not really highly Kabbalistic. It's more pop culture type of, you know, this is the kind of thing that anybody in Israel could have thought about as being a kind of everyday spiritual. They don't have spells. They don't have anything. It's not particularly, how shall I say this, highbrow. You don't need rabbinical Kabbalistic training for any of this. It's more the everyday spiritual.
Now, Seth, this is Beth speaking. When you think of the protection money that they had to go around collecting, you think of, the Godfather. You think of, Siciliano. So I'm wondering, would that be an Ashkenazi? Is that part of an Ashkenazi culture? I didn't think so, but then again, I don't know this part of society, so.
Well, let's see. Kozlowski is the name of the mob boss. Kozlowski sounds like an Ashkenazi name. Mm-hmm. And he hires guys named Chuma and Steve, and those are clearly not their real names. I think we hear that one of them, his real name is Nathanael or something like that. So you might, if you want to give this a kind of ethnic read, you might want to say you have a Russian-style mob boss, Ashkenazi, running lowlifes who come from the lower levels of Israeli society, who are sort of vaguely Mizrahi. I cannot do any better than that. I looked at a number of reviews. No one really gave me none of the reviewers had insights beyond that.
Okay, so but my question is, this thing with protection money, that cuts across all cultures?
Yeah, I actually think that I think we should look at this as being part of the motif. I think part of the reason this film works is because it has a lot of different motifs that work fine. They are jumbled together in ways that you might not expect. On the one hand, it's like The Godfather. On the other hand, it's a lot more lighthearted than The Godfather in many ways. I don't think The Godfather was a comedy in quite.
I have a question. What does Maktub mean?
Maktub in Arabic means written.
Oh.
Often used as something that's fated. And actually the idea of fate and faith in English resonates very well, but it's it's Israeli slang. Yalla ze maktub means it's fate. It's what was written down to occur in history.
Okay.
And of course, it has the same root as the Hebrew word.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I actually had somebody write me saying, does it also mean letter and things like that? Well, it's the same root.
Right, because the word for letter would be michtav.
In Hebrew.
Yeah.
And maktab and maktaba, library, office. Maktub means it's written. Kitaba is writing, etc., etc.
So why would it have an Arab word unless they are Mizrahi?
That may be exactly the point.
Good question.
Yeah, I can't give you a better answer other than that presumably it is a word familiar in Hebrew, not for its meaning of being written, but its meaning of being fate.
I want to say something about the protection money, because they're in the business of protection money, but Truma, there's all this God protection that's going on. Like we got this money, so now we got saved. We got saved. So now we have to do something for it. As that theme just enters all the way in. And everything that they do turns out fine for all these people. Because they have that faith and they have that intention. God is working. It's very, you asked the question in your email, how spiritual is this? Very.
Especially the pregnancy that happened. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how they were going to work that one out. It was really good.
I know.
Yeah, and of course it also solved the problem with the Steve character.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
it's a
I'll
very,
entertain.
very wonderful way of bringing together lots of little pieces of the story.
Mm.
Evie,
So it was a big blockbuster in Israel, apparently.
yes, it was.
I loved it.
Loved it. Is there something you want to talk about?
I'm sorry?
Is there something that you want to talk about?
I found it satisfying. It wrapped up nicely. The one that's I feel a little bad is I don't know if he's Chuma or Steve. I think he's Chuma, the cute one. The the one who wanted to be the father. You know, and he's not going to be in the kids. Well, he'll be in the kid's life as a friend, but not as a father.
Yeah.
Which I guess is the way it should be. I mean, that's how
Well,
it
he might be the stepfather at some point further down the road.
hopefully not. Hopefully they'll get along now. Now that Chum, I wish I knew which one was which. Now that he knows he's the real father.
Yeah, but she didn't want to be with him.
She
I think
she doesn't want to.
The mother doesn't want to be with Steve again. She made that pretty clear. And I think she really likes Chuma, so you know he could be the stepfather because she told him, the little boy, you know, it has to be someone we both love.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's when he put the note in about Netanyahu being, he wanted him to be his father. I think that'll progress, and I think they'll stay friends anyway.
I wonder what made the real father suspect his wife.
Do you know the answer?
Yeah.
The answer is they weren't getting pregnant. He got a sperm test. He didn't have enough sperm, right?
Right. Medical.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
But he went to the flower guy, Zachariah. He got the stuff, he ate it, and he got her pregnant. And then he suspected it couldn't be mine.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't
Oh,
be
I
mine.
forgot all about that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Every
That's right.
detail we got fit together in there.
Including the doc who says sometimes it happens even when the sperm count is not high.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
so
was the miracle.
At least the
done,
movie.
you know, that's one of the ways in which the movie really put everything together. To answer Minnie's question, I think the way that films work, the ending that we see is that the kid has two fathers, but we don't see the reconciliation between his father and his mother in the film. I think that's how the film works. Again,
Right.
we can ask the question, what do we think is going to happen in the sequel if there is one?
Yeah.
But I think that's how the film works.
Right. I think it's because that was the ending, was to have the wish come true of the two notes. And that's what this whole story was about, the notes that they were reading.
Yeah. And also, I think the way it ends is also, it's a guy movie. You know, given how much violence there was, I kept thinking that Steve was going to turn on Chuma and that they'll kill each other. But no, they're friends and they go off together with the kid in between them. So I like what you say. It's about the notes. I think that's very good. It's about Hashem will provide, or the magic of the kotel, the magic of faith, but it's also about the friendship. I mean, this is a dumb question. It's a plot question. So when they're at the very end, spoiler, this is a spoiler, at the very end, when they are not killed by the bad guy, but yet he's killed, does the killer then know that they're the ones responsible for getting his wife pregnant or giving them this? Does he know that? Like, why does he end up killing the bad guy? This is I mean, I should have figured.
I can answer that. I know why. It's because the bad guy told him to get rid of his wife and get rid of her and get rid of her, and he wouldn't do it. And then he finds out that she's pregnant, and so he figured he had enough of that.
And he's constantly bullied by that other guy, by his boss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, when I saw the film, I actually thought that the appearance of the wife, just after the guy walks in and kills the Kozlowski character, suggests that the wife let him know that the Stephen Schumer were involved in providing the serum to give to her husband.
That's possible.
We don't really know the answer to that. I like the idea that there are multiple ways in which it could be that the gangster who kills the other gangster gets his revenge, because he saw the gang. I mean, one of the reasons that the Kozlowski guy, in retrospect, gets killed is because he pulled a gun in the first act and killed one of the henchmen in cold blood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see that scene where the guy, this guy is a jerk, he killed somebody, and boom, you know, kills him. And the other guy sees that, and, you know, he has to get his.
And also at the beginning, when they were getting in the car, he backs up and runs over the guy that took his space.
Right. Yeah, but you know what they say in films and in plays? If you see the gun go off in Act 1, it has to, or if you show the gun in Act 1 and Act 2, it has to play an important role. So
That's a rule. I didn't know that.
Is that a rule? I didn't know either. I didn't know.
I want to change the subject. What I loved was showing all the Jerusalem restaurateurs. These, you know, upwardly mobile Israeli Ashkenazi yuppies coming up with, they're foodies, you know, the pomegranate stuff and all these things that they're doing to the food. And I just thought that was just so funny, you know, the atmosphere. And they're connoisseurs of this food, and they just like, what are you doing? You know, they just sort of make fun of it. I thought it was really funny.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite part is when they dressed up as women. I just nearly died laughing.
yeah, and I actually have to go back and find the word. Tried to write it down, but I don't think I got it right for the transsexual, because it was a slang word. It was not the word that I've seen in more serious material. I did some studying of this material last year for a paper where it was called cross-dresser, but that's not the term that they use. And I've seen words, I've seen transsexual also, just the English term. But they had some sort of a slang term, which I couldn't.
I tried to catch that word also. I couldn't get it. They said it one said it and the other one repeated it, but I couldn't get that word.
I have to go back and see if I can figure out what it is.
So, Seth, do you have any, am I muted? No, I'm
I
not.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Sends regards, I think.
Yeah, she said bye. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So do you have any wisdom to share with us about what this reflects on about Israeli culture?
Yeah, I do, actually. I think the most important thing that this says about Israeli culture is that these two guys, I am not knowing everything about everyone. Of course, I cannot remember their names right now, which is too bad. But
Shuma and Steve? What do you mean?
The names, Guy, Amir, and Hanan Savion.
Okay.
These guys are the heroes of a long-running TV show, and they're also writers, and they've embarked on a writing career. And they have this persona which has these lowlives who are involved in scams and do buddy pictures. And that This model seems to work well for them. As far as I can tell, it may have been part of the film, of the program. Let me get the name of it. Guy Amir. That is not what I'm looking for. Here we go, IMDb. So he has a TV series called Chateau in Kerem, which is a kind of two guys go into making a shady hotel in Ein Kerem. Scarred is, I think, the one that's called Pigua Barosh, and that one had 17 episodes over what looks like 4 years, and so on and so forth. There are quite a few things that they've done together. So I think that's part of what it says. Remember, these are guys who have a TV personality who've gone into films. Number two, I think that they're playing games with all of the motifs. The buddy film, the gangster film. I like your inclusion of the food film because food is a big thing these days in Israel. You know, you had a top-notch film festival circuit film about Israeli film, and you have that restaurant in Philadelphia. The guy went all over the place and top-run film, and you have the explosion of Israeli cuisine on the international scene. I think that's part of it also. And I also think you have a lot of Israelis who are very secular, who have some of these faith ideas. And I think that also was part of the attraction of the film, is that it locks into these ideas. We often associate them with Mizrahim, or they have all these crazy ideas about faith, and they're not particularly religious, but something happens and they want to do the right thing, and so they go to the kotel. I have to say one more thing that is very, very subjective. Last summer, I took my students to Israel. This summer, we didn't go for all sorts of reasons. Most importantly, if we had been planning to go in the beginning of March, by the middle of March, it would have been canceled. But last summer, I saw what seemed to me to be an explosion of people putting notes, not only in the wall, but any holy place. Christian, Muslim, all sorts of places. I saw Takim, all the people putting notes in the wall, and that may also be part of it. People who may be increasingly relying on divine assistance through this kind of superstitious practice. Again, this is very subjective. I didn't count. Are there more in more places than before? But it struck me as being very much a feature that's increased in the past couple of years. Certainly what I've seen is more people going to more holy sites. When I was a kid, Meir Balanes, there was no one there. Now the place is crowded, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the holy sites seem just to be totally filled with people who are basically hoping for some sort of spiritual intervention in their lives. And it may relate to that as well. As I said, subjective. I have no objective details other than a guess that this may be speaking to that feature of Israeli life as well. Yes, Beth, that's exactly the one. Michael Solomonov, the #1 restaurant in America, in downtown Philadelphia, a couple blocks from the, what is it called?
From the Liberty Bell.
From the Liberty Bell, and there's also the Jewish Museum right down there.
Right, yes.
And did you see the documentary that he produced?
I did.
Yeah, so again, Jody, I think you're right saying that the foodie stuff is probably part of it.
Yeah.
And you have both the traditional, you have, I tried to see if I could locate some of the locations. Some of the locations were obvious. The Kotel is obvious. There was a reference to Kfar Bar'am Street. I found, I could see that. Some of the things, they were not enough, I don't have enough resolution on my laptop to actually read the sign, but Kfar Bar'am Street, is a block from the corner of Bitzalel and Ben Svi, right near Gan Sacher. It's a very nice, very traditional neighborhood. Many of you even know where this is. It's, near the Belts and near the Ima restaurant, and a very, very traditional area. And then they had all the modern stuff that seems very modern. You had the Machane Yehuda against the trendy upscale restaurants. So I actually think that's also part of what makes the film so delightful.
Mhm.
And they are hanging that man out of the his office building upside down.
That
What did
was
you
so
say?
good.
What did you
You know,
say?
the modern towers where they're there are a couple places where they're up in the tower.
Right.
No,
I don't know where that tower is. I wish I tell you I knew Jerusalem well enough to identify all of the public buildings.
That was so funny. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But in addition to the upsurge of leaving notes in the wall, did anybody see that, like deep inside, at least in one of them, there was good. He was a criminal, yeah, he did bad things, but really there was good waiting to come out of him. I thought that was very Jewish.
Miss Bess.
Yeah, well, it was, and that was the whole thing. This is also part of a movie and literary motif. The crook with a heart of gold.
Well, I thought that the one who killed the really bad guy, that he was kind of good, because remember when he had that encounter when the eye showed up that they thought was a marble? But he was talking to the young men and was telling them to be good.
Right.
Young boys, he was telling them to be good. But that was really a plot twist to find that eyeball.
Yeah, if you were paying attention, you saw the eyeball drop into the marble container, they're like a coffee can,
Mhm.
when they had the blast.
Mhm.
I only noticed that in retrospect when I went quickly through the movie again.
well, that man, even though he was Caselli, whatever his assistant, he was a gentle coach. He loved little children. So what he said later on being good is part of it. And he was so sweet to the little boy who didn't have a father. He's just sweet. So again, it's sort of like, oh, he's really a thug, but look what he's like. Some of the film, when you're talking about the crooks, reminded me of Ushpizen. Remember that long time ago?
Mhm. I
Guys,
do. Yeah.
con
Mhm.
artists who visit
Yeah. Mhm.
Baal Tshuva couple and
For Sukkah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I don't know what research project I was doing, I think, but it had to do with fertility or mikvah or something like that, because I began doing all this research on Israeli efforts to get pregnant and all the meshugasim that they do. Like sit on this chair in that grocery store. It's really blessed. Every woman who sits in that chair in the grocery store. And like there was an article on Haaretz about it. People swore by this chair in the grocery store. And the attitude of this was years ago, but it was like, lama lo, like it's not gonna hurt. You can do this. And this was not a Mizrahi Ashkenazi thing at all. It really wasn't. It was an Israeli thing. I did read one of my, it was had to do with Kabbalah Center, because I wrote a book on Kabbalah Center. The place is just started by Israelis, full of Israelis at that point. And they loved the magic, which is otherwise people call it religion, but they loved all these signs. And it was just very Israeli. Though the Ashkenazi leaders of Kabbalah Center had a particular affection for Persian Jews.
Persians?
Are in essence more spiritual, than Ashkenazi. So
Really?
and really translated as they love this stuff. What you thought we're calling superstition. They love that stuff.
There was a scene, I don't remember what it was. One of them didn't want to do something. He was afraid of it. And he sort of did like poo, poo, poo on the ground. but it wasn't exactly that custom. But does anybody remember that? He was. Did it have something to do with a bird that dropped by
A
them or
fish.
something?
A
The
fish.
fish. The fish.
Mhm.
That it was an omen.
It was an omen, and he wouldn't proceed till he spit 3
Spit
times.
on it. Exactly. Yes.
And you notice there was a dead fish in the Chechen guy's refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
There was an awful lot of spitting. I didn't pay
Wait,
attention to
wait,
it.
what? The fish that fell from the sky.
Mm.
So when he sees it, when Chuma sees it, and he doesn't want to go in, right? And that is the restaurant that's going to explode. But he doesn't want to go in. But then he says, he's like this. Like, I'm showing you that I'm walking in reluctantly. Did you see that? It was a hand motion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember this?
I do.
What about the fish in the fridge? Explain.
I'm just suggesting that you have a fish one place and a fish another place, and that you can draw a connection if you want.
Gonna sleep with the fishes.
Sleep with the fish.
You know,
That's from the Godfather, Donna.
Oh well. Oh, it is. Okay.
That's
Okay.
from
I
the
didn't know that.
Godfather.
Okay.
Beth,
It means-
I
I get it.
quote Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was famous for saying "Hania lakum ya samak," which means "Bon appetit, O ye fish." And you can remember back in the 1960s what that meant. It was going to push the Israelis into the sea, and
Oh.
again, that's
Wow.
what I quote, not the Godfather.
Well, now that we're talking gallows humor, if you pay protection money and then your restaurant gets blown up, do you get your money back? What's the point? The whole point is to save yourself from things like that.
Yeah, except I think the protection money was the gangster as opposed to against terror. I mean, presumably this is a terrorist bomb as opposed to something from Kozlowski and his thugs beating people up.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, because in New York, that's what they had. They had somebody protecting the stores from them destroying it.
I like the way it was equal schmequal. They each dressed up as a woman.
Yeah, it's so funny. I enjoy it. It's hilarious. Oh, I see my vision. It's so funny.
It was laugh out loud funny, actually.
It was. Roll on the floor. I just rolled on the floor. Oh, it was great.
Well, I really liked when Steve was upset about something and he was ready to walk in, and then he said, "You can't come in here, lady." That just cracked me up.
Oh, so, and I love the part where he says, well, we're having this relationship. And that guy's actually part just to get out of that. That is so funny.
You know, it's very much in the news these days, and although they're making jokes about it, this is a very real issue, is how people deal with the gender identity. So on the one hand, it was very comic, but in our times, this is a very real issue. In Israel as well as everywhere else.
But it did get them out. One pretended to be deaf and the other pretended to be
Blind.
transsexual or transgender, and got them out of coming back to work.
And they got him out of trouble. I know. Whatever works. Yeah.
I want to say another very distinctive Israeli feature of this film is the focus on kids, on family. You know, you have to have kids. Kids are really special.
Mm-hmm.
And even the gangsters, well, everyone except the top Kozlowski, whatever. It's like kids. It's so important to family. It's such a blessing. And the little boy, what's his name, Avisar?
Yeah.
Oh my God, his eyes. He's just gorgeous little child. you know, I'm sure he's cast that way. Like, it just looks like his mother, but you know, it's like this, you want to eat him
He
up.
was really
So
angelic.
sweet. He's so sweet and innocent and longing.
Yeah.
And then the sister says, how could you have a child and not tell me? You know, it's just this focus on family, how important it is.
Is that a common thing in America to have kids go to play ball elsewhere and to have all the dads go also? I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they were in Jerusalem and they were going up to have some sort of a field day in, was it Kiryat Shmona? And you'd expect to have a parent come with. And they wanted to have the dads. That was a plot device, but it may also, I mean, I don't think anybody would in Israel would see this as being unusual to have.
No, in America is what I'm saying. I'm saying in America it's unusual. I think you'd have a few, you know, room fathers, who they used to call them den mothers or whatever. You'd have a few, you know, chaperones, but every kid was allowed to bring a dad. So I thought that was different, actually.
Yeah.
Very nice. Because it shows you, you know, the strength of family.
Well, Art or Evie or Mark, do you or Norma, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, it struck me, and when the guy is aiming the gun at the two back and forth, and then suddenly you hear the pistol fire and they look at each other and you see that a third person has killed him. That's the kind of scene that you would see in a B Western in the United States. And I was kind of confused whether it really was up to the level of the film, but maybe.
Anyone else?
Well, I like that scene, but I also like the interchange between them before that, when they didn't know, you know, he said, well, you kill him and I'll tell you where the money is. Or you save him and kill me, kind of.
Mark, welcome. Twice
Yes,
Mark.
sorry about that. I was on a computer without audio.
Oh. Okay.
There we go. That's better. Yeah, we really enjoyed the film. My wife and I, although she was kind of turned off by the violence, and so she left before the denouement, and I had to call her back and say, "Oh, you got to watch this. It's kind of a kick." So it was very satisfying. I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were very charismatic and worked well together as a team. Kind of a buddy film. They really had a nice simpatico with each other. It was enjoyable. I liked it.
Good. Anybody else have anything to say? Josie, do you have anything you want to add?
I was just going to say that I've learned a lot from the conversation that you all are having. You know, I don't know that much about Israel. I've been there only one time and mostly stayed with family, didn't get to really visit a whole lot of things. And you saw things in the movie that I didn't, you know, notice as significant. And so I'll just say I liked the movie. I thought the ending was beautiful, and the way they brought the father to the boy was really a beautiful thing. And it was funny when the boy said, "I knew it was you." That was funny. But anyway, that's it. I liked the movie.
Norma, do you want to voice rather than chat your comment?
Can you hear me okay? I have been kind of silent, but I thought it was interesting, the little boy touch his necklace at the end, his half, and I believe the father had the other half, and thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah, also a nice bit of cinematic writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm curious to know who everybody thinks got which girl. It was nicely vague at the end. Who got which girl?
Oh, I thought that was pretty clear.
Yeah,
Steve was gonna go. Steve was gonna go with the Russian.
Mhm.
She right away figures him out. You were
Mhm.
abandoned by your father, so
Mhm.
wow. And then Steve's original wife, Lisa, why would she want him? She's gonna go to Netanyahu. She said, "You've been doing this all along, coming on your own."
Mhm. She's
But
fallen in love with
I have
him.
a question. It's that Shuma Netanyahu who gives the little boy the necklace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
He's trying to get Steve back with his son. Because when he gives it to him, right, and he says, "You see anyone with this necklace, and you'll know."
Yeah.
Does he say?
He said that he's very special
Don't know
too.
you're a
Yeah, he
king.
said you're special, and so is anybody who wears this crown necklace.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
So he's setting it up. He's trying
Yeah,
to
that
set
was at the very end, the smile on the boy's face, that just did it. You know, you had two best
Two
guys on each
dads.
side. It was awesome.
Yeah, two dads.
Yes, not just one.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious, where did this take place? What city or whatever?
Well, every place that was shown
Jerusalem.
to me to be, we're to understand it was in Jerusalem. I can't
Oh,
tell you
okay.
everything was actually filmed in Jerusalem.
Okay. I didn't know.
There was a street with steps, and there was a location near that that had a sign. And I found it on Google. I was pretty sure that it was in that neighborhood that is near Bezalel Street and near Gan Sacher. If you know Jerusalem, it's a very nice neighborhood, Nachlaot, and there had other names. I don't know whether that particular plot part, I mean, I can show you where it is. It may even still be up on my Google. There we go. Because I was looking to see if I could identify any of the street signs. So Nachlat Zion or Nachlaot near Sacher Park, it's near the Supreme Court and the Knesset, and this is a very nice little old-fashioned neighborhood. Let's see if we make it larger. This street over here is steps. So I would have to go there to see whether actually satellite, let's see if we can see the steps. This is a lot of fun.
Can you share the screen?
Oh, I thought I was. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mimi.
Mhm.
So this neighborhood was a neighborhood. This is in Nachlaot, and this is a street called Hamadregot. And I think that some of it was actually shot in this neighborhood or made to look like this neighborhood. Let me go back to the map so I can locate. Come on. So this is the corner right where it is, and anyway, this is just me having fun. But these scenes should look somewhat familiar for this particular neighborhood. And then there were the scenes at the Kotel, and I have to say that the scenes with the parking lots, with the large buildings, they look like almost anywhere in Israel, where they have the high rises and the parking lots in between and so on. So I don't know that I could locate them.
Seth, I know every so often, I don't know if it's the municipality or whoever goes and collects all the little notes, you know, to make room for new ones. What do they do with the old ones?
Well, wouldn't it be nice if they found two low-life gangsters who are going to try to see if they can make wishes come true?
They bury them. They put them in the Geniza.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do they? That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so, buried them.
Is the tradition of putting notes in the wall ancient, or did it start when Israel took Jerusalem back about 50 years ago?
Well, the Takim certainly preceded independence. Up to 1948, Jews had access to the Western Wall. And this is actually a question I did not have a chance to follow up on. I said earlier that one of the things that I noticed going around Israel with my students in Muslim as well as Christian as well as Jewish holy places, that a lot of places seem to have notes put in the wall, more than I ever remembered. But I was not able to find an article, you know, the history of notes in the wall as, you know, with the kind of details that you might want. Jody may know.
No, I don't know about the wall, but I do know that, like I was on the Hasidic route in Poland, you know, where people would go to the graves. There were lots of notes there.
Right.
And also, people would take these pilgrimages to the graves, but they'd also take, like, they would take pilgrimages to tzaddikim, you know, really righteous men, and give him money. Would they leave him a note? I can't imagine they wouldn't. But it's certainly nothing that we have preserved.
Right.
When I was, I mean, maybe, I can't imagine it's something new because people pray.
All right, now here's Wikipedia. Let's see, the phenomenon dates from the early 18th century and stems from the Jewish tradition that the divine presence rests upon the Western Wall. So early 18th century.
That makes plenty sense in terms of what was going on. The early 1700s, you already had a phenomenal growth in the Jewish community. And I think that the idea that the Western Wall is a particularly holy place probably only dates from Ottoman times. We hear about it from Gedalia ben Yahya. I tried to find out anything earlier than that. Gedalia ben Yahya is the guy who wrote about Yehuda Halevi being trampled to death at the Western Wall. But the image that he has is the one down below, not the Western Wall on top. In the medieval times, when they talked about the Kotel HaMaravi, it was upstairs near the Dome of the Rock. They talk about people going up to Har Zaitim, to the Mount of Olives, to look down and to see the remnant of the temple, including the Western Wall. So that's, you know, that it seems to me that the 18th century is good as an indicator for when it started. The idea of putting Pitkalach in the wall or near a holy site, that probably is ancient. You know, you go to the pilgrimage site, you do something. And by the way, I don't know that you can do this at the wall. I think the Aish people have a fax, but I know that you can do this in an even more important holy site in the line between Brooklyn and Queens with the Ohel of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, where you can apparently fax Pitkalach.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Say, Maktub, I'm looking up, it means destiny in Arabic. I wonder why they didn't title it Hebrew Goral or Mazal or something like that. Did you already talk about that?
We did, and my feeling is that it is slang in Hebrew coming from the Arabic. We talked about whether these characters are Mizrahim. They curse in Arabic, but that's it. And the people who curse in Arabic are not necessarily Mizrahim. So I don't have a better answer for you than that. Maktub in Arabic means it is written, but in Israeli slang, as in Arabic slang, it means that which is written and sealed and inscribed in your destiny.
I had one more question. The big guy, the henchman who turned out to have a heart of gold, that was a different character from the soccer coach, right? They were both big, bald guys.
They were the same. I know it was confusing because he looked so different. They had to be the same, right?
Oh, you sure? I thought they were different guys.
I thought so.
Well, you can look this up. There's a website called IMDb that will have every single actor on it, and you can easily look it all up.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm not figuring it out.
Well, if you only have the one character and not, you know, it should tell you
One guy.
What was the guy's name?
I don't have his name written down. I went back to look for all the names because I didn't remember them all.
Yeah, IMDb doesn't seem to really say that. It's hard to tell. They don't have a picture of the actor.
Jody.
I have to go.
Okay, well, it's also about 9:30 and late for our, well, actually, I don't think anybody's left from the East Coast. Next week, we're going to see a musically related film. Next week's film is Harmonia, also a one-shot. The week after that, I think we'll either do Fauda or Autonomiot, either one of which is a series, and I will try to figure out, before I decide, I have to figure out which 3 hours of which we're going to focus on. But and I still have suggestions that people have sent me. Actually, Donna suggested that we look at a classic film, The Golem, not the recent one, but the old one from the 1920s, which might be an interesting thing to do. I had my students do the Dybbuk film, the classic film from the 1930s. I thought it was wonderful. We had a good time with it. I don't remember ever seeing The Golem, but the nice thing about these is that they've been remastered. I remember the Dybbuk is having very bad sound. The new one has a lot better sound. I'd have to look at it first, see how good it is. There's a new film called The Golem, but I think looking at the classic black and white would be a useful thing as well. That was one of Donna's suggestions. Anyway, Jody has to go. I'm going to put in a plug. If you want to know everything there is to know, it's about what, 5-10 years old already, about the Kabbalah Center. Jody's book is phenomenal.
Oh,
Okay,
that's the name of it.
I think
I gotta go. Thank you.
Okay, and I think we'll end it at that. See you all next week.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Go on.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.